It still says off air for me. Are we on air?
We're on air right now. Can you see it?
Go. Okay.
All right. Hello. Welcome to.
Oh, there it is. Live.
You got it? Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
We're live.
We're a little late. Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's just the way that life goes. It's chaotic sometimes. Welcome back to Bilingual We. This is episode number 4. We're talking about time and place bilingualism. But before we get to the heart of that, we want to talk about a couple things. Today I was just reflecting a little bit about everything that happened this past weekend and came across Sunday night's Tony Awards. Lin-Manuel Miranda. Did you see him?
Yeah, no, I have not seen it yet, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, he just wrote his speech
of
love, and I just want to take a minute to just recognize this awfulness that happened this weekend in our world and in our community, and thank all of our Latino brother and sisters who are standing up for Orlando. And anyway, just wanted to kind of put that out there first, so you don't think we're just living in a bubble, doing nothing or thinking about nothing but bilingual we, because that's not the case.
So, lots of people posting on social media, and one of my friends on social media posted the fact that if we don't talk about this being an attack on the LGBT community or a homophobic act, then we're really just being silent. So I tiptoe around it because I don't know who I'm going to offend or what I'm going to offend or what I'm going to stir up, but I do think it's important to say it. And I did share on Book Still Sir's Facebook page yesterday evening a story called Nicolas tiene dos papas. It's a story that was published by the Chilean government. It's free. It's online. It's a really simple, sencillo story about Nicolas, who has 2 dads. And I feel like stories, the best thing that I can do is share stories, and stories humanize us. If you think about the people that were massacred or someone's child, it's hard to justify hurting someone's child. So that's my 2 cents. It's horrible. I don't have the answer to this, but I would like it to stop, please, now.
Ditto. As always, you're so eloquent. And I'll definitely check out that story. I didn't see it last night, and share it on our Facebook and social media as well, because, anything you can do to be an ally is good.
Yep.
And we are allies. So changing the subject a little bit, but our lives have also been a little bit chaotic this week. Heather's got a house full of ear infections, and I've got a house full of diarrhea, and we're running a little bit late because the repairman showed up at Heather's house unannounced. And
then proceeded to want to tell me about every detail of the repairs he wanted to do on my hot water heater.
Every detail. How much is it? And go on. So we may have some kids waking up from their naps during this time. And so we're just going to roll with that today and own that fact that so we might have some itty bitty guests or some absentee Kristen, Heather here. But we'll here on the agenda, Heather, so you can go ahead and go back and recap our mission.
There we go. I'm back. It was frozen for a minute. I don't know if you noticed that. So, well, our goal of our Bilingual We sessions are to build our village, make our village a little bit stronger and bigger. When in raising bilingual children, we know that Spanish is a minority language, and so the more support we can get from our community, the better we are and our children are. And so we are just hoping to build a community of people that we can support each other as adults, and therefore supporting our children in our journey to build a more bilingual world. Because as we just kind of mentioned, the more bilingual world we are, the more tolerant our kids will be of others and differences. So that's our goal. And we really enjoy talking to each other, but we would also enjoy, talking to you, because I don't know, we're just two perspectives, and we love the more the merrier. It's definitely our ideas. So you can join us live on our Google Hangout 15 minutes late, or, whenever we can really hang out. And actually next week, I realized that I'd booked a professional development session, which I love doing with schools. But that means that I can't make our 3 o'clock Central Standard Time. So we are going to move ourselves to Monday next week, and we're going to do Monday evening at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time, 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Is that correct, Krista?
That is correct.
Okay. And so we will have a time change next week. But as always, you can find our not live shows, our discussions posted later on, and we will be sure to do that. And we actually had someone participate in our community this week. It's so exciting. So Krista, you want to give our shout out to our friend, our new friend, our new BFF?
Well, actually, we had several people join our community and join the conversation with #bilingualwe, but Jenny Poole Radway is an exciting person, because she's actually shared a lot of really cool stuff on the Pura Vida Moms Facebook page. And I'm also really excited to have found her, because she lives right here in Denver, and she's Costa Rican, and her daughter is 3.5 years old and has a Colorado native for a father. So we'll be, thanks to Bilingual We, having a little Bilingual We dinner party at my house soon with Jenny and her family. And she I know, super exciting, exciting. So she shared a video on how it's never too late to learn a second language. And it was study abroad video, and you can find it there on our Facebook page. It was super cute. We'll also add the link to that in our show notes. But anyway, shout out to Jenny, and keep the resources coming. We love them. We're nerdy. So
yes. So fun fact, but I can't really cite the research, but I'm just going to throw it out there. It's actually not true that it's harder to learn a second language at an older age. In fact, it's actually easier, because all of our language structures are really strong in our first language, and also we have a really strong vocabulary. So the transfer that happens, which my buddy Cummings, who I'm going to talk about in a minute, is one of the people who talks about transfer, which is that idea of the concepts go between the two languages. It's just a matter of learning new vocabulary. And so and because especially English to Spanish, there's so many cognates and similarities. We don't have to learn a new alphabet and all that other stuff. That learning a language at a later age is actually easier. It's just the speaking part. So chug a margarita or two, and you will be, golden.
Well, it's interesting, because my parents have committed to learning Spanish since we're raising our kids' minority language at home. And my mom's an English teacher. She teaches a lot of root words and prefixes and suffixes. And the other day she was here taking care of my girls while I did an interview in Spanish with some women who are doing research out of the University of Colorado about, education levels and the correlation that has on vocabulary acquisition in students, or in children 0 to 3. They're studying the word gap. Anyway, so I was here, and we were all talking. We went for an hour, and at the end, my mom said, "Yeah, I got it." And she's been studying enough Spanish that she knew exactly what we were saying. She can't speak a word of it, but she's got a strong foundation. So one little example, way tangential. Let's go ahead and go back to our Books del Sur and the awesome promotion you're doing with Pura Vida Moms for the next couple months.
Oh yeah. Hey, thanks for the reminder. So I feeling kind of bad I didn't mention that. It's cool. So with Bookstall Sir, I wanted to support the hashtag Bilingual Week community. And if you go to the Bookstall Sir website and make a purchase and use the coupon code, so when you go to checkout, you just need to put in the coupon code hashtag Bilingual Week, you'll get 50% off your cart. 15% off your cart. Did I say 50?
You did, and I was about to go buy your whole entire inventory with my own coupon code.
And I would be like giving away the basement. So literally, so that, someday people, I will be able to do that, but not today. So, so 15% off, which is, so you save on shipping, which is generally, around 10%, and then a little extra. So use it. Let's, and if you need recommendations for books, our next session that we're going to talk about specifically lessons in how we're teaching our kids some Spanish is the baby board book bundle, and that's a set of 5 baby board books that I bet you can't say that 3 times fast. And the baby board book bundle has some activities suggested for you, and that's what we're going to talk about in our next round. So that's a good one to buy as well, if you're looking for something. Otherwise, feel free to shoot me an email.
It's actually a great idea to buy it ahead.
Yeah, we should probably get on like sharing that idea. So
so the baby board book bundle, I got a preview in the mail a few weeks ago, and they're our favorite books. One of my favorite things about them is they're very sturdy, because my little sister, likes to eat board books, and lately she's been coming off with pieces of cardboard in her mouth, but not the Bookstall Sor books. So that's one reason, but also because we'll be highlighting different activities, strategies for how to use that for pre-readers and early readers. And if you buy it now, you could kind of read along and use the activities along with us and engage in the discussion on social media. So buy books.
Buy books, and they're good books, and they're para cantar, morder y what was the other
sonreír.
Leer.
Leer.
Leer. I guess you could read them. All right, so board book bundle. Check that out and use that 15% off code. And then there's also a discount on the bundle. So if you bought the books individually, there's a discount on that bundle. So even more so, there's savings. Oh my gosh, Krista's going crazy with her coupon codes. She's loving it. She's thinking Target. Oh my gosh, savings. All right, so enough poking at you. Some more nerdy terms. What was the thing that you're talking about? Nerdicals or nerdicals?
Yeah, nerdicals, right? Nerdicals. Nerdy articles.
So from our nerdicals, there's some terms that we want to just highlight so we don't sound totally elitist. Number 1, sequential bilingual. That is learning one language and then the other language, and both Krista and I are example of sequential bilinguals. We first learned English and then Spanish. So that's one of the terms. Simultaneous bilinguals is learning both languages at the same time. We really can't sort out what's happening, which language is more or less, but it's learning both languages at the same time. And then ML at H, minority language at home, is what our episode 2 was about. Is that right, Krista?
Yep.
Using minority language, and in this case it was Spanish, at the home to increase bilingualism for our children. And then the term emergent bilingual is a term that educators often use to talk about students who are also often simultaneous bilinguals, but it's students that are learning both Spanish and English. And then today, the 2 terms I'm going to...
And I have to stop you because I forgot one parent, one language, OPOL, which is where each parent speaks their native language if they are different. And so the child is learning to listen to and speak both languages simultaneously in the home. And that's what we talked about last week. So, all right, now we're going to introduce, Heather's going to introduce a couple new terms, BICs and CALPs. And these are awesome terms. But she'll break them down for you.
I use them so often, I don't know if I can say what BICs stand for. Basic, it's in that article. Anyway,
interpersonal.
basic, interpersonal, cognitive,
I was
social,
sequencing.
whatever. Okay, let me just
We don't
explain
sound
what they mean.
elitist right now.
Yeah, no, we don't.
At all.
So in the
I'm going to
academic
tell you
article
here in a second
we
what it
shared
is.
this week from ASDC. Eeks.
We lost you.
Yeah, sorry, call came in. So in the article that we shared this week, hey, this is real life, right?
Was it the
article,
water heater guy following up?
I probably. In the article, in the academic article we share this week, it's from ASDC, the leadership magazine for educators. It's by Judy Hayes, who is one of a very prolific writer on English as a second language students in the United States. And she referenced, oh my, persistent. Sorry, she references Jim Cummings' work, and he talks about BICS and CALPS. This is the initial work around English as a second language learners. So BICS are the basic social language, or what commonly are called playground language. It's the kind of language that's used like hi, how are you, all kinds of things to interact socially. And then CALPS is the language that's considered academic language, or what helps us to succeed in our traditional standardized testing and schoolwork. It's commonly, when we're talking about math, different math vocabulary, like it's the same person calling over and over. I don't know what else to do. Maybe turn off. I don't even know. Yeah.
We'll just tag them in every single promotion of this episode. Be like, hey, I was busy.
Yeah, it's a school district, so I'm always happy to talk to them, but not at this moment.
No, not at this moment.
Not at this minute. So CALPS are the more academic language.
And we've got BICS, basic interpersonal communication skills. Interpersonal, talking to other kids. And this can look really differently. I liked how you said playground language, because as children who are sequential bilingual, or possibly emergent bilinguals, but I would say more sequential, are learning a second language. And I think about school, it's this is a lot of times, but not always, the first type of language to emerge. Because it's interpersonal, and they're learning it from their peers, and it makes sense to them, and it's things that they would say in their native language. They feel confident. And then CALPS is cognitive academic language proficiency, which is the ability to use your brain and what you have learned academically in order to use that in order for a means to another end. Like you said, testing. It could be, filling out a worksheet in class, whatever that is. So they're really different language development skills. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today in the context of what you do at home, Heather, right? Which is your bilingualism is, I would say, contextual bilingualism, in that your son knows the time or the place that he's going to be using Spanish with you. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what bilingualism looks like in your house and why that is.
So I wanted to share the terms BICS and CALPS with you, because that was kind of the framework that I started thinking about how I was going to share Spanish with Thomas. And it really occurred, like a couple things happened to me that really just made me so anyway, so in my household, I'm the only one who speaks Spanish, and it's a pretty important part of my life. I mean, it's the root of my business, Books del Sur. It's my career, my 15-year career. And also it's a huge part of my heart. My Chilean family has really adopted me and brought me in. I love my own family. There's nothing wrong with my family, but to have another one that's just as awesome is a huge bonus. And so there are people in my life that are really important that Thomas has a relationship with. So thinking about all those factors and knowing that how important Spanish was to me, it was really, I actually talked to a ton of people, shocking me, talked to people about what they did with their child. And a couple of my close friends and people I really respect there's two stories that kind of resonated with me. One, my one friend had said that her son just really kind of resented the fact that she spoke Spanish to him all the time. And she would do the typical like en español por favor when he would speak to her in English, and just kind of that ongoing battle with him. She just eventually gave into it, and it was really sad and frustrating for her. And that made me think, like, I don't want to have that relationship with Thomas. I also have to tell you that I have two stepkids that are with us half the time, and my stepdaughter is going into 8th grade, and she's in Spanish class. Spanish is a foreign language, and her teacher doesn't ever speak Spanish to her in class. Yeah. And it's tough for me to sit and to know that that's happening. And her mom has talked to me about me teaching her Spanish, and her dad has talked to me about her teaching her Spanish. But I already have the role of stepmom, and like to take on another role and for me to be her teacher, I really hesitate with that. Like I just really want her to pick up her wet towels, and if that's the battle I'm going to have with her, like that's the only battle I really want to have with her, right? I don't necessarily want to be her teacher. So so knowing that I want to be my child's mother first, and I want to be my other children's stepmom first, that's really important to me. Mm-hmm. And having that struggle is just wasn't something that I wanted to lay down on. But I did want to be really open with them, and I do want to use the language as much as possible, and I do want to share with them what's valuable to me, and I do want it to be purposeful for them. So we try to take trips and travel. So for example, with Thomas, I took him to Chile this year, and we were there for 2 weeks. I hope to do that again next year. I can, it's a business expense for me, but it's also a family trip. So exposing him to situations like that so that he can be exposed to the language and have a purpose for it. Like it's a way that he talks to his tata and abuela. And so, as well as we FaceTime with them as much as possible. This week, actually today, my Chilean brother's wife and child are coming, who is also a teacher with me. And so we won't necessarily speak Spanish to each other, but my Chilean brother, when he comes, we will. So just situational in terms of connected to people in my life that are important is one way that I do share Spanish with him. And right now for Thomas, it's just all receptive. Like it's just all hearing and listening, right? And I know that from a really young age, those sounds are really important for him to develop. Secondly, Thomas and I use Spanish when we play, and when we play in the bathtub, and when we play with his different toys, especially his like muñecas, his little dolls or his monos. We use Spanish with those all the time. And if I'm role playing with an animal, like it's super easy for me to bust into Spanish. And especially for some reason, gatitos, I don't know why, like cat to me is really awkward to say. So like gatito, like I'm like immediately like, oh, Toma, ¿cómo estás? Like I can code switch like that one with, I don't know what it is with cats, but in my mind, cats are Spanish speaking. So play is another situation where we use Spanish a lot. And also I've been thinking a lot about, he's so in his early language development. So Thomas is going to be 18 months next week. And I've been thinking about just the sounds he's making right now. And yesterday we were eating palta con pan, and pa is one of the sounds that he can make. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to use palta and pan. And palta is aguacate for most of you, but in Chile it's palta. And so also I just insert words as I see them. He loves shoes, and he loves to put on his shoes. And so now and he loves cheese. So now I'm also telling him like, ¿Dónde están tus chanclas? So that when he goes to get his shoes, he can learn chanclas, and that's a word that he uses. So it's really situational, and it's really random on my part, like also what I know. because there's another story that I didn't share with you that I wanted to. Another friend of mine who I really respect, she's an incredible academic in the language of Spanish language development. She told me that with her daughter, she stopped using Spanish at home because she didn't know how to potty train her. And, you know, she could easily like go and look up the words and blah, 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 and learn them. But it just became like a roadblock. And after having a newborn, and Chris and I just both shared about how like we got diarrhea and ear infections and all that stuff. Like we don't have much more time to fit in our lives to learn new things like that. And so I really didn't want something like that to stop me from teaching Thomas Spanish. I didn't want to have like this expectation for myself so that when I got to some kind of roadblock like that, I would stop. So really, for me, it's about me letting go of my shoulds and woulds and have tos and just allowing it to be natural and flowing and adaptive for our situations and when I can. And I know that I learned Spanish from, I can't say this out loud, but because I was going to teacher bash, and I don't teacher bash. So, but I know that I learned Spanish through the very traditional model, and it's not the best way for learning. So I need to let go of how much Spanish Thomas is going to learn, and when he's going to learn it, and how much I'm going to teach him, and just make it something that he loves, is interested in, and knows that there's people that love him. And those are great reasons to be interested in it. So for me, it's really purposeful, situational, and people tied. And just exposing him, because one of the big reasons that I want the world to be bilingual is so people aren't afraid of other people. So people aren't afraid to when other people are talking, that they're not afraid that they're talking about them. Like I just really want it to help him to not be afraid of things and be curious and interested. So we'll see.
There's just such a cool duality about bilingualism, right? That there's always two ways to say things, because there really are in two different languages. And I think that alone helps kids and adults and anyone to be able to just quickly put themselves into someone else's shoes. It's like a skill that they develop very quickly of, I'm going to look at this from someone else's perspective.
Well, and I mean, it's more than duality, right? Because look at palta. Like Thomas is going to grow up and he's going to call something palta, and then he's going to be at school with his teacher, and this teacher's going to be like, no, that's aguacate or whatever, you know, and he's going to be like, no, dude, it's palta. Like, I know, my tata calls it palta all the time.
Yep.
And so, I mean, there's more than that. And so it's that flexibility that I really want to share with him. Yeah. Yeah. And for him to feel, and for him to understand that there's so much out there and there's so much to learn. You know, when I started Bookstore Sir as a business, the business language that I had to learn, I'm still learning it. I mean, I still, like I don't know, it was only 6 months ago I called freight. You know, like a meat fillet. I'm learning, you know, like, could you please charge me for the fillet? No, for the freight. That's what I really wanted to say. But
you could throw a fillet in there too.
Maybe they'll ship me meat. Maybe it'll be like carne del sur soon. I'm not sure, but not.
Sign me up. We love carne over here.
Yeah. So that's the other thing, is we're always learning. There's never ending learning to what we're doing. And if I can just open Thomas's world up to that, that's it. My stepkids, on the other hand, it's a whole new challenge. And one of the links that I put in our agenda, Krista, is to Bookstore Sir. There's a site that I just posted a bunch of stuff, and it's vocabulary activities that I use with my first year Spanish class. And those are things that I'm going to use this summer with my stepchildren. We'll see how it goes. Can't promise anything, but there was definitely some talk of bribery to see if they wanted to do it. But on the other hand, I'm not gonna push it too hard. But those are different activities I will use to teach them how to read and start to develop their sounds in Spanish.
Well, and I think if, you know, a huge piece of this is if all parents are on board, you know, they'll learn something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take you back a little bit because you talked about bilingualism and why. I wanted to comment one thing that part of the reason I think why I wanted to start this, and I believe it's the same for you, but when I was trying to decide what bilingualism would look like in my house, there was a lot of negative from people who are not bilingual, because a lot of my village at the time was monolingual people raising their kids. And that's who you see at the park. And so I didn't have a forum like this that I could go to and say, okay, what could this look like? You know, given my strengths, my husband's strengths, what we want for our family and traditions, what could this look like? And so I love the power that we're giving parents through this series to be able to say, I don't know what bilingualism could look like, but here's 6 ways that I could try it, right? Because you're fully bilingual, but you've said, hey, I'm going to own the fact that I cannot do this all the time with my kids, but that's not going to stop me. That's the amazing part, Heather, is you're not like, well, I can't do it all the time, so I guess we're just not going to be bilingual. Nope, you're giving it, situational, purposeful, and people tied. So I love that. But I want to take you back to how is what you're doing with Thomas tied to Bix and Kelps?
Oh, so, well, it goes back to the idea for me, like, in theory, what I'm doing is Bix with Thomas.
Yeah.
But when you take Bix and Kelps and you put them into a home context, there's going to be things that he's going to learn that are going to be Kelps. So, yeah. So, and it'll just depend on where he goes with his reading, especially. He has access to some really high quality, authentic literature, and so I think it'll really depend where he goes with his reading, and that will really develop his Kelps. Yeah. So right now we're in Bix.
Yes and no, because anytime you're teaching, these early readers and early vocabulary strategies, you're really teaching some basic Kelps, right? Because clearly Thomas is not learning how to solve a mathematical equation in Spanish, but he is learning the vocabulary to be able to name things, which is what children would do in a traditional school environment. So there is some Kelps. I feel like in the first 3 years, Bix and Kelps can kind of overlap.
Absolutely. And just the language structures that he's hearing and learning right now, those are all going to contribute to his Kelps. So like, yo tenía 10 perritos, that like cuento alone, like there's some serious Kelps in that. And so, yeah, of course. Well, and I don't know if we can really pull them apart as much as we'd like to. Yeah.
I don't think we can. And I also think that it could be a great future topic to talk about discourse pattern. Because as you say that, I'm thinking of Kelps in sentence structure and formation, and I'm seeing my oldest daughter mix the two. Like she'll say a lot, "Que huele a, mommy, que huele a," and she's saying, "What does it smell like?" She's translated it, right? But then there are other times when she'll say, "Mommy, I'm doing caso. I'm doing caso. Estoy haciendo caso, like I'm behaving." And so she's got those two discourse patterns. Like she's aware that they're different. She doesn't know how to, unlace them yet. Anyway, that's for future nerdiness. So, we usually talk about the pros and cons of each strategy. And I think one of the huge pros, right, is that you're doing it. He's being exposed to a second language. He sees it as fun, as play. I can't always say that about what we're doing with minority language at home, because I am like, gosh darn it, you're going to speak Spanish in this household. And sometimes it's not so much fun. Usually it is, but sometimes it's not so much fun. So huge of just like making it fun and making it part of, people that he loves and situational. But I can also, and I don't know if this is true for you, but I've been thinking a lot about kind of losing sight of the mission for 2 reasons. One, I think I've told you before, but I wasn't really allowed to watch any TV when I was growing up. So I'm making up for it now. for the past 20 years. And we're in the thick of the series, The Americans, which the premise is, do you know anything about it?
I do. I don't watch it, but my husband does. He started binging on it when he had this night shift with Thomas. Yeah.
Yep. It's super addicting. So the idea, right, is that these people are Russian spies and they're living undercover in the United States in the 80s. And, you know, they have to do some extraordinarily horrible things. And in their mind, they're always justifying, like, this is for the homeland, this is for the motherland, we're doing this for Russia. But here we are in season 4, and they're both kind of losing sight of that mission. Like, gosh, I just had to kill someone who has a family and children because of this larger mission that I don't even know, like, isn't even tangible to me anymore. And as I'm starting this blogging business, I've been feeling like that lately. Like, you know, when I have to work on social media, I'm like, who cares how many followers I have? Like, it doesn't matter, even though really to make this a viable business, it does matter. But the nitty gritty details, it's really easy to lose sight of the mission. So I'm wondering for you, if like, there's ever times where you're like, well, he's hardly getting any Spanish anyway, so what's the point? Like, do you ever lose sight of your mission, and what does that feel like? Or maybe you don't.
I wouldn't say I lose sight of my mission. I would say I forget that we speak Spanish. So there's some weeks where there's definitely more Spanish and other weeks that there's not. I think every night, I don't think there's been any night that I've ever read him a storybook that's not in Spanish, though. Like, that's his dad's job. And, you know, something I didn't mention is Troy, my husband. He actually taught both of his kids to read in English before they went to school. He did Hooked on Phonics with his kids, and the kid's mom is also a teacher. So it's not like she didn't know how to teach them how to read, but it was something that he wanted to have with the kids. So that's something else that came into play in our conversation about Thomas being bilingual. Was I knew that he would want, and he said that he wanted to take that role of sharing reading with Thomas and in English. And so I was like, perfect. Then I'm off the hook. Like,
yeah,
I'm gonna do Spanish. And so, you know, the reason I don't lose sight of my mission, I guess I could say, is because of books. Other than the books, yeah, I lose my mission. Like, there's times I'm playing in English and whatever, but the books keep me grounded. So it's and in life, we know that there's got to be something that reminds you of why you're there. So when I learned to meditate, which no one should say this who meditates, but I'm a crappy meditator. So I really needed something to, like, re-engage myself and keep my focus. And so, you know, when you meditate, you have to pick something each time. But for me, for Spanish, the metaphor is that it's books. It's books for me that keep me grounded. And sure, there's times when I'm like, what am I doing with these books? This is crazy. Like, I'm crazy. But it's my community that keeps me alive. And it's you know, it's kids at school that are like, Miss Robertson, I just read your Kai, blah, 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 blah. Those are the reasons that keep me grounded. It's my colleagues that are like, Heather, por fin encontraste un libro bueno, gracias. You know, like, that's so I do feel like my community keeps me strong, and it's the books that's the tangible thing for me.
That's awesome. That's really great. I guess I need to find one of those tangible things and meditate on it.
But don't forget to find, like, a thing in the room that when you're meditating, so that it keeps you reminding that you're meditating.
It can't be a cell phone, right?
Yeah, it can't be Facebook.
Darn it.
Yeah. My holistic life friends, if they were watching right now, they'd be rolling over. Wow. Anyway.
I also wondered if you really ever learned to meditate. I don't know. I feel like it's like a forever quest, but I don't meditate right now. So I feel like it's like learning to pray. I mean, you ever learn to pray? You ever learn to meditate? I don't think so. Just practice a lot.
Yep. That's what it's about. Exactly. And that's what I Krista, I think it's the exact same thing with language. Do I ever really know all Spanish? Oh my gosh, no. But it's just you got to practice. You got to show up.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of jump ahead a little bit to the question of the week, but we need to know the question of the week is going to go, it's going to go straight to Spanish. So if you're watching this and you're not a Spanish speaker, we apologize. But it's summer. We have some time on our hands. We need to listen. I know Heather won't be speaking Spanish at school all the time as much. So we're wondering what teleserie or telenovela are you watching? Because Heather needs some recommendations. We're kind of into the big Colombian drug cartel series here at Casa Pura Vida, but really we're not watching teleseries because we watch Copa America 4 hours a day. But interesting thing, if you haven't been watching Copa America on Univision, they have the new SAP, which is part of the, I don't know what that stands for, but it's in the closed captioning settings of your television. No. Well, you can with closed captioning, but SAP is so that you can, now they've got it so you can pick your country and listen to the live broadcast from your own country. Because one of the complaints of Univision was that it was mostly the Mexican and the Argentine accents from their two commentators whose names I can't think of right now.
That's amazing.
But now you can go, so for us, for Costa Rican, we can just go to Radio Costa Rica and we can listen to it right through our TV. So it's not a teleserie, but we've got a few more weeks of Copa America that you can watch on Univision and check out different accents depending on what team you're watching. And then I've heard all the rage is the Moisés y los 10 Mandamientos teleserie. I don't know if it's on Univision right now, but it's showing in Latin America. So not watching any, but that's what I'm hearing. Hearing is the buzz.
Well, I'm looking for one. I can do a Netflix one, or I can do a cable one.
Can you do an Amazon Prime one?
Yes, I can do one of those as well. I haven't watched Narcos yet. Is that in Espanol or English?
Which one? I think there's one in each, but
that's the one. Oh, really? Okay.
I think so. But who's the famous person in Narcos? Somebody super famous. Anyway, that was enough of our attempted foray into pop culture. Clearly we're nerds. We can't remember any pop culture, but we know what Bix and Calbs are, and we can explain that to you.
And I can definitely tell you who Judy Hayes is.
Jim Cummins and
Jim Cummins.
What was the other lady?
Talked about Stephen Krashen, one of my other favorites, Mr. Transfer.
Yeah, Krashen. Krashen. That's
so. Yeah. So I'm wondering which teleserie, telenovela you're watching, because I want to watch it with you. And I didn't tell you that the telenovela, and I became obsessed with it. So they've always been my friends. So I love them. All right. So teleserie, share it with us. I'd love to talk to you about it. We've got some really great articles. And the one article about how students acquire social and academic language is our academic article for the week, or
our nerdicle.
Our nerdicle for the week. And you know, Krista, I don't think you talked about the article that you shared with me earlier. So do you want to? Is that one going to get posted about how much Spanish should you speak? Or
yeah, this reminded me of Heather as we were preparing for the episode, and I actually thought of something, Heather, what we can do when we create our events and promote this event. We can put the articles ahead of time, and then people can read them before they even tune in, which would be really cool.
Get better at this.
We are going to get
going.
Yeah. So the Peri Peri lexicon is, I believe she's out of Africa, but I might be wrong. But she's got an article that the title is "How Much Time Does My Child Need to Be Exposed to the Minority Language?" She also does minority language at home like I do, and it's a struggle sometimes. And I believe her minority language is English, but I could be mistaken. So I'm reading this and I'm like, yes, she's so smart and she has all these great articles. She's going to tell me. And the article's great. so I don't want to ruin it for you, but the very first sentence says, I'm not going to tell you how much time they need, because it's whatever you determine. It's kind of like what Heather said is, no exposure is too little exposure. We can't really determine how bilingual our kids are. If they're more bilingual than other kids, if they know more than others, or whatever, there's always more to learn. But it is a really interesting and I think reassuring for me take on bilingualism in the household, because actually one thing I was going to say, Heather, is a huge pro of your time and place in contextual bilingualism is that there are times when I am just like sick of speaking Spanish and I'll just switch to English. And it actually can be kind of confusing for my kids because they're not used to me in that context speaking English. And it's because it's easier. Quite frankly, it's easier for me sometimes, especially sometimes with discipline or when I'm tired or hungry. But it's actually, I think, a pro that you've got this time and place, and that's when you speak Spanish, and Thomas knows to expect it, and you know that that's when you're going to be on. Where minority language at home, you're expected to be on all the time, which actually isn't sustainable. So anyway, it's a really great article, and it just, what I really love about blogging community and the vlogging community and all of this is, and just social media, is that everybody feels like their voice is valid and should be heard. And there are so many beautiful voices that we are out there supporting each other in our own journey and finding similarities and embracing just this multicultural, bilingual, duality, always learning style of living. And this article really embodied that for me. So I'll add the link into the show notes, and shout out to Peri Peri Lexicon because she's got some great stuff.
I love that it's an asset thinking article. Like it's when you and I first talked about it, I was like, yeah, I know it's going to tell me I don't do enough. Right. And we all just need to support each other, and there's enough in our world to beat each other down. So yeah, do what works for you. No need for us to judge. Who are we to judge?
Not I, said the cat. So yeah, I thought it was funny when I was telling you about the article earlier, and Heather says, oh God, it's probably going to tell me that I'm not doing enough. And I said, no, Heather, it's not going to say that. It's a really great article. So I think we're all hard on ourselves. And I think the majority of us are doing a really great job. And sometimes I tend to think the people who pat themselves on the back so much are actually doing an awful job. So maybe they need a reality check. But that wasn't a very nice thing to say.
Everyone's doing the best they can do, right? Like, yeah.
Yes, we are.
We can only do that. So, and last thing about supporting ourselves, the giveaway, the app giveaway, when does that end? Because
it ends on the 20th.
Okay.
And you can enter every single day if you want. And this app is super great for Spanish-speaking families, either for bilingual or not. Because, like, for example, I downloaded it for my mom, and now she can practice the phrases that I mostly use with little sister. And she can use them, and they can do it together. So anyway, free app. There's 3 total downloads. You can enter it every day. I've had one reader tweet every single day that she's entered that giveaway, and I think that's awesome. So, and you need to use the hashtag bilingualwe when you enter. So go ahead and do that. And actually, Heather, we did not do this at the beginning of the show. So if you're still hanging with us in our crazy world today, can you recap all the ways that you can find us and contribute in our social media conversation?
Absolutely. So there is a very adorable little 2-minute video that shows you, but if you go to puravidamoms.com, from Pura Vida Moms, you can see all of the different social media ways of following. Biggest thing is using that hashtag bilingualwe, following different Pura Vida Moms Facebook page, following Book Still Serves Facebook page, tweeting hashtag bilingualwe, using hashtag bilingualwe on Instagram. And am I missing anything else? Oh, the button. So there's buttons. There's all kinds of buttons that Krista has on the Pura Vida Moms website that you can add to your blog as a supporter, as a contributor. whatever works for you. We want to give you as many options, just like we want to give you options for how to, how you can support your kids and raising them bilingually. So we want to give you options and for what's the easiest way for you to contribute and feel supported in the community.
Yes,
am I missing anything?
You were kind of cutting out a little bit for a minute. Did you say subscribe to the YouTube channel?
I did not. Didn't say YouTube. So there's another one.
So there's another one. And I keep adding on there, you guys. Just when you go to my channel, you'll see our videos, of course, but you'll also just see all of the great things that I'm using at home to reinforce Spanish. I'm also going to include just an interesting take on, screen time and what that can look like in a bilingual household, especially a minority language household. So we've been listening to Pika Pika. They're out of Spain. They're 3 hilarious people who do all kinds of nursery rhymes and singing. And they have this song called Tengo una casita. And my daughter's been wanting to watch it every day. And the other day she did the whole song and danced. She sang it. She did all the actions just like they did on Pika Pika. And I thought, you know what, this was a great investment of screen time. She gets 15, 20 minutes. She kind of can decompress, but it's all in Spanish. Don't have a problem with that. So I'm adding all of those to the YouTube channel too, so you can see who we are subscribing to and what we're using and what videos we're watching here at our house. So that's kind of what we're doing.
Great. Good. So I think that's it. Our next episode, guys, is not going to be next Tuesday. It will actually be next Monday at 9 o'clock Central Standard, 8 o'clock Mountain Time, which is our 2 times. And so figure it out if you're not in those ones, or move. Just kidding.
And we know that that's in the heart of The Bachelorette. But I think JoJo will be okay without you for a week. And what could be more important than making our world better with bilingualism? So
join us.
We're taking on The Bachelorette.
Yeah, I'm sure the Nelson ratings are going to slip that week. Sure of it. So.
Yeah, I think so. Probably. Yeah.
So
all right. Well, thank you all so much for joining.
And please share with me which telenovela are you watching, or share with me when you're using Español con su hijo. And thanks for joining us, guys. It was really fun. Krista, thanks for being so organized and getting us together. And thanks to Thomas for sleeping through the show. Hey, love a double ear infection.
Oh, man. All right. Salud to you guys.
Okay.
All right. Bye, Heather.
Ciao.